I cannot believe that I did that with my kids yesterday. And if you're Swiss, I'm really curious. Or if you live in Switzerland, you're a foreigner like me living in Switzerland. Is this a cultural thing, or am I just being a helicopter parent? Like, hear me out on this, okay? So story time. Now in Switzerland right now, it's school holidays, and coupled with that, we've gotten an insane snowstorm a few days ago. It's been snowing ever since. Crappy weather. I have two little kids at home. They're 2 and 4. And then one time, like yesterday morning, I don't know, randomly I thought, I talked with my husband, should I go with them? Should I take them to the indoor playground? And then my oldest son hears it and he's like, yeah, take me to the playground. And I was already internally feeling like this might not be a good idea because it might be busy. But I'll tell you what, like when I went there, first of all, I had to park 10 minutes away. I almost like turned the car around and left again. But then the look of utter disappointment on my son's faces, I just couldn't do it, couldn't break their hearts. And so I was like, okay, just toughen it out, like do it, just go there, get through it. So I go there, park 10 minutes. I had to park 10 minutes away, which I never had to do. So I walked in there in the snow. It was snowing like crazy. Finally get there, and we get inside, and it is completely absolutely packed. I've never, not on any weekend, seen it that packed before. Usually I go anyways during the week, but it was insanely packed. All of the tables, there's a cafe when you walk in, a restaurant slash cafe, and then you walk down, and then you have this indoor play area, which is nice because you can kind of like see everything. But like all the tables were packed. There were so many people, so many families, kids from the ages from 2 and up until 16, like yeah, every age. So I was already like internally crying, but I couldn't get away anymore, so I had to like toughen it out. And then I was just following my sons around. I was like trying to be careful, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that can happen at just indoor playgrounds, right? Like especially with the trampolines, when you have so many older kids there as well, and especially when they're like together with their friends, they might not watch out for younger kids, right? And I mean, I get it too, right? So, but anyway, so I was following my sons around, and especially my 2-year-old, of course, I had to pick him up a bunch, try to get him to go to not like the center places of like where everything was happening. And then my 4-year-old too, he disappeared, and every time he disappeared, I was just like praying. I was just hoping that he's really great, like knowing his way or maneuvering his way around crowds, but like I was like just praying that nothing would happen. And then like it finally was too much, so we go up, and I was still waiting for my 4-year-old, and all of a sudden I hear a commotion. Like I don't know how to explain it to you, but it was all of a sudden the noise levels were like 10xing themselves, and screaming and yelling from there and there. And like I had my backpack, my stuff like in about the middle of the restaurant, so I wasn't like at that railing where you can really see what's happening. I see a couple of parents standing up there, a few parents. The other majority of the parents in like the restaurant, they didn't care. The 80%, I was like, okay. But so I was like just wondering, where's my 4-year-old, right? I see him coming up the stairs finally, and he just started that, like some kids started a fight. And then I can just hear sort of like I was trying to like glance over them, and I see this mess of, I don't know, oh my gosh, 15 kids were just like in the center and on the slide and like yelling with each other. And then a couple of kids were like pushing themselves and like punching, and I don't know what was happening, but like I think it went on for way too long until the attendant of the whole indoor playground like finally made his way calmly down the stairs to see what was going on. But then I just couldn't forget too, there were two little kids, like one was maybe 2 years old, could barely climb up the stairs by itself, right? And a 3-year-old girl, and they were just had that look of horror and were completely sobbing and losing it. And then I was just thinking like, oh my gosh, like I mean, if those were my kids, like I was just thinking, if they're so little, if they're so tiny too, I wouldn't leave them alone, especially when the playground is so packed, right? And you have so many older kids as well. And I just wonder, because oftentimes we foreigners, we noticed, and I don't know if you grew up in Switzerland, I would love to hear your point as well, that it's more like a Swiss mentality to kind of leave their kids by themselves and like, hey, you figure it out, on your own, kind of like that kind of type of mentality, because that builds resilience and so on. And it's interesting because, when I first had my son in America, like in California, I mean, I got a whole different parenting perspective. I mean, definitely, I do think like by and large, Americans are definitely way more hands-on, also because of like all kinds of things that could happen in America where, you know, you can sue them and blah, 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 and whatever not. But like people are hands on there, right? American parents. And most of them, I mean, obviously by and large, there's the outliers as well. But so I'm just wondering, would you have like kind of, can you relate? Would you have gotten like me? Because I felt a little bit silly, to be honest. There were a few other parents only, maybe like 7 or 8 others who were actually going around as well, trying to keep peace, right? Because you did have to discipline sometimes some of the kids. Like they just, I mean, it makes sense, right? Everyone was going a little bit nuts, right? And it just felt like we had to parent other parents' kids, and now obviously, you know, you look miserable as you're doing it. I don't know, my boys had a blast regardless, which was funny, but I was just wondering, I felt like a helicopter parent, definitely, even with the whole commotion going on. But then at the end of the day, I didn't care either. I'm like, hey, my kids are safe. Yeah, because they're still little and there's so much they're gonna figure out about the world anyways. What's your take on that? And am I right about like this view? Is it a cultural thing or not?